Little Nicky was Adam Sandler's first huge flop, and critics fucking hated it. But then the Sandman definitely got the last laugh. Little Nicky turns 25 years old this week, so here are some things I bet you never knew about it. The story behind Little Nicky starts in 1999. Adam Sandler was coming off of 5 hits in a row: Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, The Wedding Singer, The Waterboy, and Big Daddy, all of which turned a profit at the box office. And so for his next movie, he got an idea for a surreal comedy about a half-demon who happened to be the hybrid son of the devil and an angel. According to a 2000 article in the Tufts Daily, when Sandler came up with the character, he thought to himself, well, this is fucking gold. Though there's also a story of Sandler being inspired by the 1987 movie Angel Heart and joking about what if the devil had a loser son he had to drag around. So he got together with his longtime co-writer Tim Herlihy, and they started writing Little Nicky. They got the movie set up at New Line, and then they got Mighty Ducks and Heavyweights filmmaker Steve Brill to come on as director. Brill also contributed to the screenplay when Sandler and Herlihy needed help, and the director says that the fantasy world building made the script a challenge. Quote, we had to actually write longer and harder on this just to get all the rules down. And then it came time to cast the film. Sandler brought on many of his friends and former collaborators, like Alan Covert, who Sandler demanded shave his head for basically no reason. And you've also got Kevin Nealon, John Lovitz, Robert Smigel, Blake Clark, Dana Carvey, Ellen Cleghorn, and Rob Schneider. They wrote the part of Cassius with Tiny Lister in mind, and he accepted the role. Likewise, they wrote the basketball ref for Dana Carvey, and he trusted them completely. Sandler saw Rhys Ifans' previous work and thought he was funny, so they offered him Adrian. Ifans read the script and thought it was hilarious, so he agreed to meet with Sandler. And quote, we both stunk of the same stench. We both had a bit of a night out the night before, so I thought, we're gonna get on. Ifans decided to do an English accent instead of his natural Welsh accent in the movie because, quote, there are a lot of Englishmen in hell. In a making of documentary on the DVD, Ifans said it was the most fun he ever had on set. When they wrote the part of the devil, they thought it would be cool if they could get Harvey Keitel. So they faxed him the script while he was in Turkey, and he accepted the role. Though at one point, John Voight and Dustin Hoffman were considered for that part. Sandler says they wrote Satan like a Long Island dad, a family-first kind of guy. Melanie Lynskey and Uma Thurman were considered for the role of Valerie Varan, but they ultimately offered it to Patricia Arquette. The filmmakers were very concerned that her falling for Nicky wouldn't be believable, so to make her appear a little bit nerdy and less traditionally beautiful, the costume team gave her those large, unfashionable glasses. Valerie Varan, by the way, follows Adam Sandler's pattern of giving his movie girlfriends VV names. Valerie is also Adam Sandler's sister's name. And then the list of celebrity cameos and other notable bit parts is just wild. Rodney Dangerfield was one of Sandler's heroes growing up, so they wrote a cameo for him, which he agreed to. But you've also got Michael McKean as the chief of police, Quentin Tarantino as a blind deacon, John Farley, Chris Farley's brother, as the human dartboard, Clint Howard plays Andrew/Nipples, and Dan Marino, Ozzy Osbourne, Regis Philbin, Bill Walton, and Henry Winkler all cameo as themselves. Sandler later said Winkler's cameo was his favorite part of the movie. Quote, that makes me laugh the hardest. Out of everything in the movie, every time I see Henry and I see the fucking bees cover him and I hear him scream, ah, I laugh. Carl Weathers reprises Chubbs from Happy Gilmore as a dance instructor in Heaven. Adam Sandler's future wife Jackie played the redhead angel Jenna. And of course, Reese Witherspoon plays Holly, Nicky's angel mother. Witherspoon is about 10 years younger than Sandler in real life. They also considered Jamie Presley and Britney Spears for that role. Also, Radio Man appeared in a deleted scene. Radio Man, aka Craig Castaldo, is a New York City local known for showing up at film sets wearing a radio around his neck, and because of this, he's appeared as an extra in more than 300 shows and movies. New Line gave Little Nicky an $85 million budget, which would be about $154 million today. And you can see that money on screen because the movie has a ton of massive practical sets, prosthetic makeup, and CGI. Filming began in November 1999. They shot in New York City and Los Angeles. They did a ton of on-location shooting in New York, but a lot of the movie was shot on massive set builds and green screen on sound stages. Hell and Heaven were both constructed practically out of styrofoam and wood. Hell's design was heavily inspired by Bosch paintings of the underworld, as well as heavy metal album art. And when Ozzy Osbourne came to set, he was so impressed, he hired the production design team to design the next Ozzy Fest. Heaven, in contrast, was inspired by Birthday Cake. Steve Brill didn't want it to just look like white clouds and marble, so they used pastel colors and swirling cotton candy-like patterns. When Hell breaks through into Central Park, they built those Hell set pieces like a massive rock concert stage in an open field, and hired hundreds of background actors to fill out the scene. The movie also used a ton of practical makeup for the various demons. They had 14 makeup artists on set every day for all the prosthetics. The makeup team went through a lot of different designs for Harvey Keitel's Satan and didn't land on his final look until the night before his first day of shooting. Kevin Nealon's head breasts were made from water-filled condoms so that they'd jiggle, and he recalls people wanting to touch them and lots of jokes on set about them. The Monkey Man was an old-school fursuit with a complex animatronic face. There was a lot of stunt and wire work on the movie. Sandler and Arquette did their own wire flying playing against green screen, and Sandler was lifted up on wires in the Central Park hell scene as well. And Rhys Ifans recalled the difficulty of doing a wire-guided fall over 10 times. Sandler also said in the DVD extras that Dana Carvey broke his ankle while filming, though it's unclear if that was during a stunt or just on the basketball court. Everyone was in awe of Ozzy Osbourne when he came to set. Sandler says when they were writing the script, they were banging their heads against the wall trying to come up with a better ending. What's in the glowing ball? And then they thought maybe it's a bat, and Ozzy Osbourne comes out and bites its head off. But they weren't sure if Ozzy would do it. Thankfully, he was game, though when he came to set, he was a bit unsure of himself as an actor. On set, they had Ozzy bite a giant rubber bat, but in the film, it was done with CGI. Filming wrapped after 5 months in April 2000, and speaking of CGI, Little Nicky had a ton of visual effects for the time. People melting, giant fish, the Nicky spiders, Nicky's head spinning around, all of that was CG. When Satan becomes just arms and a mouth, they were going to do that with Harvey Keitel up against a green screen at first, but it wasn't working out, so instead they did it from the ground up with CG. Likewise, they used a real bulldog on set for Mr. Beefy, but then the VFX team had to replace his jaw and mouth in every shot to make him talk. Sandler, by the way, later adopted one of Mr. Beefy's pups, Meatball, who was the best man at his wedding, but sadly later died of a heart attack at the age of 4. The MPA gave Little Nicky a PG-13 rating, and it opened on 2,910 screens on November 10th, 2000. It did $16 million opening weekend, falling to number 2 behind Charlie's Angels, which was in its second week of release. Little Nicky only made $58 million at the global box office, meaning it failed to make back its $85 million budget and the additional millions that were spent on marketing. This was Sandler's first major theatrical film that flopped financially at the box office, and critics hated it. Today, just 21% of the 112 reviews assessed by Rotten Tomatoes are positive, and it's got a 38 on Metacritic off 29 reviews. Audiences were a little kinder, giving it a B cinema score in theater exit polls. But Roger Ebert actually kind of liked it. He gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars and called it Sandler's best movie to date, saying Nicky was intriguing. The movie was nominated for 5 Razzies: Worst Picture, Worst Actor for Sandler, Worst Supporting Actress for Patricia Arquette, Worst Director, and Worst Screenplay. But it lost all those to Battlefield Earth starring John Travolta. Little Nicky also got a tie-in video game for Game Boy Color in December 2000. It's a platformer that follows the story of the movie, and IGN gave it an 8 out of 10. Despite Little Nicky's failure in theaters and with critics, Adam Sandler got the last laugh. The movie spent several weeks on the top DVD charts in 2001, and has since creeped into the hearts of many Sandler fans. In 2020, Mel magazine called it massively underrated, while Slash Film wrote an opinion piece that year defending the movie, saying, quote, "This movie is actually good." Thanks for watching. If you've made it to the end of this video, drop a Popeye's chicken in the comments, and for more movie histories, check out the attached playlist, or subscribe to my newsletter for the latest movie news.